The late Advaita teacher H.W.L. Punjaji, or popularly known as Papaji, who was the direct disciple of Sri Ramana Maharishi, said that enlightenment can happen in a millionth of a second. That means awakening can happen now. But the problem with most of us is we are unable to keep quiet. He says all it takes is just a microsecond for you to be quiet, and you can know your true nature. Your true nature, which is peace, which does not oscillate between excitement and depression, thrill and depression. It's just a very natural, neutral state, or you can even call it a stateless state, which is your own being. But we get so identified with thinking. And mind, by nature, seeks familiarity. So it wants to repeat those experiences that are familiar. And sometimes we are not able to distinguish between what is good or what is bad, because the deeper layer of the mind does not discriminate between what is good and what is bad. It just clings to what is familiar. So it is not unusual for us to get lost in thinking. And that is where we deviate from our purest essence, from our purest state, which is the substratum. So Papaji would say consciousness is the substratum, which is always there, which is the changeless principle that witnesses every change. But it cannot be objectified. It cannot be known as an experience. The moment you try to know consciousness as an experience, as an object of your imagination, you are identified with a movement of the thinking mind. That means you're already swayed into thinking. One time, Lao Tzu was traveling, and there was a companion with him, and the companion was initially very eager to join him. So he asked Lao Tzu's permission that, can I join you? And Lao Tzu said, yes, you can join me, but you will keep quiet. You will not say a word. And the disciple agreed. The companion agreed. So they went, and Lao Tzu took him to the most beautiful mountain scenery. And Lao Tzu was quietly witnessing the scene. And in that moment, seeing the beauty of the landscape, the companion, he said, this is so beautiful, this is so wonderful. And Lao Tzu immediately got upset. He said, you've lost it. In describing the beauty, in trying to describe the essence, the amness, the isness, you are reducing it to an object of your imagination. And anything that is object of imagination is impermanent. It is going to cause stress and anxiety. Because what is gained will be lost. So any imagination which is gained by the mind through movement will be lost. But the substratum from where everything rises and into which everything subsides remains there as the unchanged principle. And the recognition of that recognition is not an intellectual recognition. It does not come about through thinking. It is not a product of imagination. It is not a product of time. It is not that through time and more intellectual understanding you will get there. It is a matter of recognition which can happen right now. If you can just be quiet for a split second, for a millionth of a second. I heard that a disciple of Papaji was once shown, and she experienced something grand in a very short time, in a split second, instantaneously. But then, the ego comes back, the separate self comes back, and there is a reason for it. The reason is so that life, the interaction, the living as we know can happen. But with that recognition, something else happens entirely. The quality of life changes. Our attitude towards life changes. So this lady who was shown reality by Papaji, after that went to a Zen master. And she said, I am completely free now, I have no thoughts. She probably misunderstood what Papaji was saying. She probably saw something that was her own imagination and not what Papaji was trying to explain. So the Zen master asked her, okay, sit quietly and let's observe the mind and let's see what happens. And she sat there quietly. And then all of a sudden she says, oh, the thoughts are coming. I'm not enlightened anymore. The thoughts are coming. It's gone. It's no more. And the Zen master said, that's the trap. Who is the one seeing? What was being pointed to is not understood, is not seen, is not recognized. It is not a matter of making the mind quiet forcefully. It is not that practices will lead to quietening of the mind. The understanding will lead to quietening of the mind. And the understanding is that it is not in your control to quiet the mind. It's paradoxical. The one trying to quiet the mind is movement. And how can movement be stillness? But yet it is not separate. They are not two. The movement is stillness and stillness is movement. So when this understanding is there is total surrender. When there is total surrender, the mind automatically becomes quiet. In that there is pure witnessing. So at the end of the day, you can just ask, what are you actually identified with? The person is always identified with something or the other. He or she is not willing to let go of something, and that is why the mind keeps moving in multiple directions. Sometimes there is happiness, sometimes there is unhappiness. And the surrender, the idea of surrender is acceptance of this movement, total acceptance of this movement. But we cling to one side. Either we cling to pain or we cling to pleasure. Clinging to pain is mind identifying with past patterns which are painful, but pain seems familiar, so mind clings to it. That is the nature of mind. The nature of mind, thought is sticky. This is what Ramana said. The nature of the thought is sticky. Once it starts, it begins the cycle. It keeps moving in one direction. Pain, 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 pain. If it's pleasure, 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 pleasure. But every time the pleasure is experienced, you're swinging onto one extreme, the momentum is building up, the potential is building up for you to move in the other direction. So when there is maximum happiness at one end, you automatically find yourself on the other end, where you experience lows. And then there is depression. And then there is all this questioning, why am I not enlightened? Enlightenment will give me something special. Where enlightenment is imagined as a permanent state. And my concept is that there is no permanent state. The total acceptance that there is no permanent state that can be attained by any individual is total enlightenment, is awakening, is understanding, is the insight that I talk about. Till there is a search for anything permanent, for any permanence in any form, till there is seeking in any form, there will be pain. And mind's identification with pain will propagate the suffering. So the mind says, if I cannot get happiness, let me cling on to my pain. At least I will get some attention and I can thrive. So the thing is, we do not give ourselves the opportunity to be quiet, even for a small moment. And that is why we experience this never-ending suffering of life. Ramesh Balsekar said that life is simple imprisonment. So, we are here in this giant ball made up of iron and so many other minerals. And there is gravity which is acting on our bones. There is this body which is decaying. And physical pain is a part of life. Psychological pain is also a part of life. So there is suffering. The existence is difficult. It is tough. There is no denial about it. And practices are good. Practices are useful. But no matter how much you try to make the prison comfortable, prison at the end of the day is prison. Now, it does not mean that one should not do any practice. Because, if I can make my life, if I can make this prison a little bit comfortable, why not? But when it is understood that there is no escape and total surrender to what is the only condition for peace. The only way peace and harmony can be brought in life is by unconditionally accepting what life shows up. Till there is resistance to what is as what should or should not be, there will be always suffering. Till there is identification with pleasure or pain, there will always be continued suffering in horizontal time. Every pleasure will be pursued to increase its intensity, and so goes for the pain. Every pain will be resisted, increasing its intensity. So to bring yourself in a neutral and natural position is to recognize that the mind needs to be just quiet for a split second, for a microsecond, to recognize that there is no you, but there is pure awakening. That there is no individual that is awakened or trying to awaken, but awakening itself is happening as this, which means whatever is arising is this, is all there is. It is all made up of consciousness. Consciousness is the source and substance of everything. The pure potential, the unmanifest, the supreme reality, as the masters say, activates itself as this manifestation, creating multiplicity. And in this multiplicity, me or I is one of the objects, just like many other objects. The problem is when I consider myself to be the separate subject and I start looking at everything from the point of view of separation, then life becomes a constant source of pain and misery for me. Because then I constantly live with this thought as to how I can either change the world, change the other, or how I can change myself to fit into the world. But what is forgotten is that there is no world out there that needs to be changed, and there is nothing here that needs fixing. It is all fixed. It is all perfect. It is all going according to the way universe plans it. So our ideas of right and wrong are creating this dualistic split, because your right is never going to be universal right. Your wrong is never going to be universal wrong. even the most shocking thing, the moment you start asserting that it is the right thing to do, you will always find opposition. There will always be someone who will say no. And the reason why they say no is because you've said it's right. So we are living in this prison, which is simple imprisonment. But this understanding, this awakening, keeps the simple imprisonment as the simple imprisonment. But the separation, the unconsciousness, makes it rigorous imprisonment. That means we just pile on additional burdens of guilt, shame, blame on our shoulders. And all these masters are saying you do not need to put any blame on yourself, any shame on yourself, because you never did anything. Everything was done. Everything is a happening. You are just an instrument through which actions were carried out. And the only will is the will of the universe. And that is awakening. The total understanding of that is awakening. Awakening is not about making the person special. The person does not awaken. Awakening happens. Awakening is dissolution of the sense of separate existence, the sense of individuality. It does not mean that physically the individuality breaks away. No, we are living in this plane. There is separation we can see in the physical objects. But they're all bound by one consciousness, because everything is known in consciousness. Nothing exists apart from consciousness. But consciousness can stand alone by itself, as it is experienced in deep sleep, where there is no experience, nothing, no experiencing, total void, not even time. So time is just an inference that is brought about by thought. It does not exist in reality. And time can be very relative for most of us people. It depends on our life situations. When life situations are good, the time flies. When life situations are bad, the time seems slow. So time is all relative for all of us. In deep sleep, there is no inference of time as well, because there is no thought. There is no underlying sense of separation. And that is our cue. Deep sleep is our cue to our true nature, which is wholeness, which is completeness. So as the masters say, just be quiet for a millionth of a second and know who you are. Then all these questions about awakening, the troubles of awakening, will just dissolve. Because when awakening happens, life is not easy. It brings a lot of pain for most people. It brings a lot of pain and turbulence and conflict and confusion. In fact, some people say that my life was better before awakening. After awakening, I've become more miserable. I was better off before. But you see, it is the mind that is saying that. So mind wanting to cling on to safety, security, pleasure, immediately comes up with concepts, with ideas. Do this, do that. And the doer mind is the one that brings pain and suffering. So just keep quiet and see what happens. And it is ironic that I have to speak so much to tell you to be quiet. But you see, this is what life is. It is a big paradox. And if you understand this paradox, this joke, game is over and you're free.